Another big magazine ban might be coming to Colorado, and believe me, even if you do not live in Colorado, I've said it before, I'll say it again, the battles that happen in other states, if you live in a purple state, will come to you soon if it's not there already. And if you don't live in a purple state and if you feel like your gun rights are protected, Washington, D.C., it's coming your way someday. And in this video, I'm going to be downloading a whole bunch of really interesting statistics about how many so-called large capacity magazines, i.e. normal capacity magazines, there are in the United States. We're going to be diving into some case law. So guys, let's get into it. All right, so we know the anti-gunners like to play this game. It's all about framing, right? Hey, if we call it a large capacity magazine, it will then create this perception that anything over some sort of arbitrary number, usually it's anything greater than 10. I've seen anything greater than 8, but usually the number's set at 10 and under or 15 and under or something like that. Those are the two most common numbers. Colorado, we're talking 15 and under, all right? And anything above this arbitrary number, we're just going to call that large. Okay. And if you don't know anything about firearms, if you don't own firearms, if you don't shoot, maybe that sounds reasonable, right? I mean, to be fair, 11 is larger than 10. And to be fair, 16 is larger than 15. So in that sense, yes, they are large capacity magazines. They do hold more rounds. But if we're being honest, and I know there's some anti-gunners out there who do watch these videos, so hopefully we can have a little bit of an honest moment, just us girls right now. You know, come on, you know that this isn't the truth. This isn't the way the English language works. Normally, you see, when we talk about large or small, we're using something called adjectives, okay? An adjective modifies a noun. So when we talk about a magazine being this thing that holds rounds, right? That's the magazine. If I call it large, it would seem to indicate that, this is larger than the majority of magazines that are out there. Just like if I called something small, it would seem to indicate it may hold less rounds than the majority of magazines out there. So when I say something's a large capacity magazine, it would seem like this is something that's really kind of a bit of an outlier. It's something that's in the top, well, at minimum, 49% of magazines in production, perhaps even the top 20%. This should be one of the largest magazines you come across, right? Wrong. According to a major study that was released by the National Shooting Sports Foundation, 963 million magazines were produced and entered into commercial production. We're not talking law enforcement. We're not talking military market. Between 1990 and 2021. Of those 963 million magazines, 717 million have a capacity of 11 rounds or more. So 74% of magazines are so-called large capacity magazines. Think about that. It's irregular. It is unusual to hold less than 11 rounds. So in other words, 10 or less rounds, those are the outliers, okay? 11 and up, those are normal capacity magazines. 10 and down, those are small capacity magazines. The consumer market totals for rifle magazines actually show that 30 plus capacity magazines, so magazines that hold 30 more rounds, are over 413 million. 413 million. That means that close to half of the magazines out there, hold more than 30 rounds and up. And moreover, just to give you some idea on these ratios, the magazines that hold 30 or more rounds are more than 30 times the number. There are more than 30 times the number of those that hold 10 or less. In other words, for every magazine that's out there that holds 10 or fewer rounds, there are more than 30 that hold 30 or more rounds. So it's about 13 million rifle magazines that we're talking about. That's the ratio, 30-1 for rifle magazines. Think about that. How can we say that large capacity magazines are large capacity magazines? They're not large. They're normal. About 46% of the magazines estimated as part of the study are rifle magazines with 30 plus round capacity. The percentage of detachable magazines at 11 plus rounds as 55% of all total pistol magazines. So this isn't just some sort of rifle only. These are both handguns as well as rifles. Now, you want to know something interesting? Not every manufacturer even participated in this study. So this was an industry study. So a lot of this was self-reported numbers, meaning that if you think, oh, well, hey, this is only 963 million magazines we're talking about, of which maybe 717 million, those are really the ones that are so-called 11 and up, so the normal capacity or large capacity. Not every manufacturer participated in this, meaning that the real numbers are going to go way up. These numbers are the rookie numbers. They are going up.
I pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
So in Colorado, they're trying to criminalize, as in many other states, possession of normal capacity magazines, and they're going to do it through the political optics and framing, that's the psychological device at use here, framing the discussion as if that the normal capacity magazines, those are, the large, weird, extraneous ones. It's a small portion of the market. No one needs them. Only the extremists have them. Get rid of them. You now have the statistics to push back on that absolute absurdity in their framing. But if you think the absurdity ends there, I've got news for you. It doesn't. Because in court, because they can really, I'm sure someone's going to argue, don't get me wrong, that they're going to say that, don't worry, so-called normal or high capacity magazines, 717 million magazines with a capacity of 11 more rounds, they're not in common use. No. They have no common use test. And this is the trap for them. They know that they cannot say that they are not in common use, which is the reason why they are stuck arguing that these magazines are not an arm. They are not an arm. Why is that important? Because the Second Amendment perhaps only protects arms. The question is, what is an arm? Anti-gunners have been arguing that accoutrements, things like perhaps magazines, sights, things like stocks, slings, scopes, mounts, and other things that are integral to operating the firearm, who uses a firearm without a sight these days, are not legally protected because they are not essential to the absolute essential nature of a firearm, which they define as the thing that basically makes the propellant go bang and expels the projectile down the barrel. Everything else, irrelevant, not protected. Let's see what the Supreme Court said about this. So the Supreme Court said in a 2016 decision in Ketamine, where it also cited Heller, so which means that this has come up twice now. Heller has defined arms covered by the Second Amendment to include, and this is only one of the definitions, quote, anything that a man wears for his defense or takes into his hands or useth in wrath to cast at or strike another, end quote. We saw a federal court judge, of course, recently post his own video as part of a decision going through the fact that, look, if we just say anything that is other than the thing that is absolutely essential to expelling the gunpowder, exploding that, and pushing the projectile down the barrel, nothing else is the arm, then you can regulate everything else away, which of course is the entire point. If you've read Heller, and by the way, if you haven't, you should, and if you don't have time to read it, you can listen to it. We'll get that link down below. I narrated the whole thing, so you can listen to the whole thing. It's long, but it's incredibly interesting and packed with useful historical anecdotes. The concept of what is protected under Heller and moving forward through case law goes to the general principle of when ordinary citizens had to answer a militia muster call, what firearms, what weapons, what things did they carry and bring with them? What were their bearable arms that they brought from their homes that were commonly available to the muster? Yeah, they would have brought their musket, maybe a rifle, probably a musket. They would have brought their powder. They would have brought their ball, and the sacks that hold the powder, the ball, and so forth, right? All those things. So the question is these days, transporting ahead about some 250 years in history, and it actually is exactly 250 years as of April 19th, 2025, by the way. We're talking about the 250-year anniversary of the battles of Lexington and Concord coming right up around the corner. If ordinary people were to answer that muster call, what are they bringing with them? All of those bearable things, all those arms, the bulletproof vests, the nods, the thermals, all that kind of stuff should absolutely be protected because that is nothing more than the current analog, the current example of what people would have used back then. Again, something I like doing is I like to take the arguments that anti-gunners use and then I like to turn it to what if we use this in another area of law. So let's take, for instance, First Amendment. Let's say an average news article runs between 300 to 800 words. So does everything above that, that's now an assault opinion, right? We don't need anything beyond that, right? No one's entitled to more than 300 words or maybe 800 words to express a political thought or speech. What if we find out that the average book is only 100 pages? Well, you don't have a right to make anything beyond that now, right? Average news segment's only 30 seconds, so no one can do a 45-second or a 60-second segment, and on and on and on it goes. No one's entitled to a large capacity column, magazine, book, or news story. Yeah. This story is about Colorado. This video is about Colorado. But you are blind and naive if you don't think that this is about all of us. Because today it's Colorado. Tomorrow, it's you and I. I appreciate you sticking around this long. Our quote of the day is an interesting one. It's unattributed. Quote, "You've been dead for 13.8 billion years. You're not afraid of death. It's life that you're afraid of." Interesting one, fun one, good one. Be sure to hit that like button. Let me know down in the comment field below what do you think about all this? Do you think all this is going to come home to roost as I'm afraid of someday or not? We'll, of course, keep updates coming to you in the pinned comment if something happens between recording and launch. Links to everything down in the description box below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this one, please feel free to check out some of our other great content, and we'll see you in the next one.